Do you really feel that India's plural identity is intact and India has been the way it was, and how do you see India progressing?
No, I do believe India's plural identity is very much intact, but that doesn't mean it's not being attacked from time to time. And in fact, the process of reacting to these attacks has actually strengthened Indian pluralism. By which I mean that there is in our democracy always a point of view in favor of a more sectarian model. The Hindutva chauvinists or the castists or people arguing for narrower versions of identity. But the interesting thing about the Indian experiment has been that all these different identities coexist under the carapace of a common Indian identity. If you look at many other countries in the world, the US, for example, is a melting pot. People within a generation or maximum two forget that they were Italians or Irish or British or German, and they become one. They become a certain kind of identity type, which is the American, and ultimately within a couple of generations you cannot really distinguish in terms of ancestry. In India that's very, very unusual, but I would say 90+% of our country are people who belong to a particular region, a particular linguistic group, a particular religion, and often a particular caste within it. And the curious thing is, one would argue, surely that is not viable in terms of a society, and yet it is. As I've often explained to Americans, we're not a melting pot, we're a thali. In other words, we are a big stainless steel plate full of different bowls. In other words, each identity is a bowl by itself, and because you're in a bowl, you're not flowing into the next on the plate. But they all belong together on the same plate. And the meal is not complete unless you have all of it. And when they combine together on your palate, they give you a satisfying repast. That metaphor is the more appropriate metaphor for India. We're not a melting pot in the American sense at all, but nor are we, let us say, a largely monolingual, monocultural, monoreligious identity, as say the Germans used to be until perhaps a decade ago, or as most of the East European countries still are, where they're one ethnicity. I mean, if you're a Slovak, you're a Slovak. If you're a Finn, you're a Finn. And as I said till recently, if you're a German, you're a German. You speak German, you worship in a particular Christian church, you have a certain ethnic appearance, and so on. Whereas certainly in India, that has never been the case. And I would argue that 63 years of independence has actually cemented the pluralism that makes us who we are.
What do you think that actually cements that pluralism? I mean, there should be one common factor which binds all these people together.
There are three common factors. I would say there is, first of all, geography, which is an accident, of course, but it's there. This has been a shared geographical space within which the second factor, history, has played itself out. Our histories have all overlapped with each other. May not always be in the same space, but if you add up the sum total of the overlaps, you get a common Indian history. And then finally, there is politics. There is the extraordinary impact of our democracy. The sense that our democratic system offers everybody, whether you're from Kerala or Kashmir, a place and a role and an opportunity, a set of opportunities. And that, I think, ultimately, one can argue it has emerged from an ancient civilization on this geographical space, united and divided by a shared history, and then sustained by this pluralist democracy of ours.